Today I'm going to walk through some of the security features that information security features we've built in. These are seamlessly built in. I'm going to show you the how it works at the physical level, but this works equally at the logical and conceptual level as well, and over a number of dimensions, so you can get all sorts of different dimensional views on this as well. So the first thing we're back to the healthcare demo that we've done for a small mini application that deals with hip and knee surgery, and that's got six Oracle tables in there. As you can see, these are nicely brightly lit up. So these are the table structures, and you can see the color coding here, which basically shows the prevailing most serious information risk within those. So obviously patient data, you're into the this is American data, so you're into the HIPAA area here. So you've got PHI identified within the patient data. You've got some personal information, not necessarily HIPAA related, within the interventions table. You've got some corporate confidentiality as well, because in theory, we're not just looking at primary privacy legislation. We're also looking at secrecy and all sorts of obligations that are in there. I'll get to that in a second. And you also have things like publicly available information, so the facilities themselves. I mean, everybody knows where they are. Everybody knows what their addresses are. So there's no, so that's here actually almost like a reduced obligation. So just bear in mind these structures. You can see basically within the data unit there is actually, this is the conceptual classification, and this is basically how it all works. So I'll just move into here. So now we're basically in the security architecture role, and number of obligations here. So this the way that we've created this whole feature within the platform is that we can basically list the obligations and the many types. So we can list security legislation. We can legal bases, contract consent models, subject rights, all sorts of different types of things. And then what we can do is then build up groups of those. So export control is a security legislation that deals with sensitive designs, access restrictions, and location restrictions. So and we can build this up so we can be very atomic across all sorts of different types of legislation. One of the interesting things here, though, is that for this particular installation, because the whole platform is multi-tenanted for this particular installation, we're picking up lots of global stuff, but we've also created our own enterprise security classification regime, which basically means we're not adopting the default global one. So because we've done that, here are the global ones. We can actually create our own here. So we've created six color-coded what we call obligation groups. So these are almost like policies. One for confidential, corporate confidential, one for personal information, PPI, one for personal sensitive, one for protected healthcare, public stuff, and unrestricted sort of business data. And what we can also do is inherit sort of industry-specific conditional groupings here. So there's one here within the medical and health sector, which is we can determine a medical patient when we see this data unit basically within the classification. And there's also here a number of other ones. So there's quite a few things within this particular installation is basically looking at all the templates, so it's got quite a few here. So I'm identifying a buyer there. You can see it's all normal stuff. But what conditional groups allow you to do, which I'm going to show you now, is actually upgrade and downgrade the severity depending on groupings of concepts. So I'm just going to get rid of this one for the moment. Just going to show you how those groups are set up. So I've now gone into the security architect for the medical and health template. So we've actually created 4 distinct ones here. So this is the being able to define a GP, find a GP. So if we see that this data unit, that will flag this one up. If we see medical patient, it's that one. We've also got one that basically says, how do we identify a doctor's address? And for this particular demonstration, so we've created a couple in here which says, well, it's got to be a determinal doctor first. And then if you also have postcode and address line together within the same structure, that then tips this one. And you can see how this is set up there. So here are all the ones we've added locally. And this one basically says postcode plus address line plus that conditional group equals a match to a different condition. So it's very flexible. You can create all sorts of groupings there and switch them off and turn them on and do all sorts of nice stuff. So if you've got very complex data landscapes, it will actually spot things, lots and lots of combinations in there. So back to the Q6 Information Security logon. We're going to basically have a look at just one example here. So address line unstructured. So just a quick note here. What you're seeing here is within the assigned security obligations. This is what the security architect for this particular installation basically sets up, and they set up basically how this all needs to work. You can either inherit the global way, or basically you can set up your own. Well, we've set up our own here. So these are actually the atomic units. So the reason why we do it at atomic unit level. So we set a base one. So we're saying here for address line unstructured. So this is any kind of address line where you have mixtures of house numbers, names, streets, locales, all that kind of stuff. For an unstructured address line, it's publicly available information by default. But we're also saying that it's also conditional as well. So what we've done for this one, just click here. We've defined 2 conditions. So we've basically said if we find the address line is structured with the medical patient determinable stuff. So if I effectively a medical patient's address, then it's now PHI. And if we find the similar thing for a GP, then it's actually corporate confidential. So this is showing the ability to actually spot different groupings and assign different policies to those groupings. So obviously we've done this all the way through, and this is why we have all those nice bright lights against the physical data landscape. So what we can do then is we can then have a look at this. Basically builds every 30 minutes or so. It basically takes all the various assignments that are out there on your project landscapes or on your physical databases or your schemas or your objects or applications, that sort of thing, or groups of design components. It then builds effectively a security dimension against those, and then you can actually hit the dashboard and it will actually pop up an impact dashboard, which will look like this. So we're looking at the project that basically is should we say, baselining this particular application. So it's got 57 fully classified columns, attributes, call them what you will. It's picked up these obligations, groups, these policies. So there's some public information, there's some unrestricted information, there's some PPI, there's some PHI, and there's some corporate sensitivity in there. And these are the labels that there's also tips, so there's some public, some internal, some confidential. And these are the obligations that will also come out there. So we're in HIPAA land here. And then it gives you a breakdown of all the atomic components that have basically been identified to actually produce this. So all these things basically have had some sort of combination that's tipped tipped into the information security side. And if we'd have actually been importing numbers of records into the physical structure, it would have also given us an impact in terms of values as well. So there would have been another graph which basically told you how many physical values were actually affected by that. And some rather poorly constructed databases we come across before that can be in the multiple of millions. So that's pretty much it. So one thing that I'm going to show you is what's coming. So I'm just going to go into, actually this is a very, very generalized user here. So if we remember the application structure designer from other videos, what we're doing now is building out a way of actually doing this all by legislative territory. So we can actually, we've started doing this bit, so we can actually say which, this particular application, which legislative regions it's been installed in. And then what we're currently in the process of doing is then going through the environment designer, and we will be doing, what we'll be doing is, and to this area we'll be adding basically the legislation into here. So we'll say this particular environment, this particular instance of an environment is actually physically located in one of those three, and then we can start filtering legislative combinations based on those regional characteristics. And the other thing we're going to be doing at the same time is also then adding those things into the way that you actually sign. You assign conditional groups as well. So we'll say this conditional group is tied to a particular legislative region or a legislative type like GDPR or European Union. So we can start filtering things by global, where things are in the world. But that's coming. So thanks for listening, and there'll be some more demos shortly.